Hey everybody, Patty Ann here. I don't know if I've told you or not, but my sister and I are also trying to learn how to draw and paint. And so I have several books, and I like to dog-ear pages so I can go back to them. But it ended up I had so many pages dog-eared in this that my book was starting to look pretty crappy. So that's when I decided to go online to see if I could find these little bookmark things that go on the corner of the pages that you're saving, like that. Isn't that adorable? So I went ahead and put it on one of the pages, and I'll show you. And I'm going to make about 5 of these just so I can keep track of places that I want to go back and visit. So for example, here's one here. So the lighting makes it look a little icky, but it's really cute in person. And when you close your book up, of course, it peeks out so you can easily find the page that you want to look at. So join me and let's go ahead and start making this bookmark. It's super easy. And I think they'd make really cute gifts for kids too. Oh, and by the way, you don't even have to put these faces on here if you don't want to. You could easily change this up and make it say a word, say something, put any design you want on here. Simple. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are at Bunny Cup Embroidery. I'm not affiliated with them. I just like some of their things, so I thought I would let you know about it. I just purchased, as you can see, I got some credit, $1.20 credit, because I did just buy this set here. I couldn't decide which of these bookmarks, corner edge bookmarks I wanted. I knew for sure I wanted the kitty, and I was thinking I love the shark for my grandson, and this little rooster is really cute too. So I just decided to get the set since it's on sale right now. The whole set is $12 and each one individually is $4. So I thought, I'll buy this set. And you know I need it based on what I just showed you. I want some of these corner bookmarks. I think they'll be fun to use. So after I got these, I bought them and I downloaded them. Then I unzipped them. So the next thing I wanted to show you was you get some really nice instructions with this set. They look like this. Bunny Cup Embroidery. And it tells you all about how to make these step by step. Well, a lot of you like to watch a video instead of reading all the instructions or following along. So that's why I'm making this video today. And of course, the first thing it shows you to do is to hoop your 2 pieces of stabilizer, and I'll show you that in a moment. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to run the first stitch, which is the placement stitch. That shows you where to place your applique fabric. And of course you want to make sure that your fabric is larger than this area, because then you're going to go around, sew it, and then trim it afterwards like this. Okay? So let's look up now at the software that you get for free. If you happen to purchase, like I did, the NQ1700E, I got this BES software for free, and it's really kind of fun to use. It is this right here. And as you can see, I have 2 files open. This one is called BC Corner Bookmarks 10A. And this is 10B. I need both of those to be able to make my design. So you make 10A first. We're just going to look over here at step number 1. And that says to use a pale pink. And you can use any colors you want to on these, but use a pale pink or something and to make your placement stitch. So if you look down here in the stitch simulator, and I have this little bar that I can move myself, and the first thing you'll see that it's going to do, like I said, is draw out the placement stitch for your fabric. After it draws that out, I'm going to place my applique fabric on top of that, and then it's going to come around again and stitch that down so it doesn't move. Then after that's done, I'm going to trim the excess away from the edges, and then it's going to start with some decorative stitching. Okay, so let's look back up here at 3D, and that doesn't really help too much. Let's go to the very end and you'll see what you're doing next. So you're doing some of that stitching right there. First it starts, and then it keeps going, and then it does the satin stitches. And that is it for part A. So let's go over to the machine now and get busy. Okay, the first step is to take your 4x4 hoop and load it with tearaway stabilizer, 2 sheets of it. And you'll need to use 2 sheets because it might get cut through when you're embroidering. So I just have 2 sheets here. And I'm just roughly cutting and I'll hoop both of these in my 4x4 hoop. Loosen this up just a little bit. Put one piece there and then put the other piece right on top of it. And take this piece, making sure that I'm lining up the point at the top, the arrow at the top with the top of the hoop, and just press that into place. And then you can tighten this screw down here a bit if you'd like, just finger tight. And then this is ready to go into the machine. Okay, as you can see, I have 2 different machines that I could be using. My brother's PE770 is in the background, and that would work perfectly because it takes easily a 4x4 hoop as well as a 5x7. But today I'm going to be using my NQ1700E. Okay, let's move this a bit so you can see the screen. There we go. So the first thing I need to do is bring up my design. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is click on this button here because I've transferred the embroidery file over here, and I've done it wirelessly, and there it is right there. So I'm going to do this one first, which is A, and I'm going to say set, and I'm going to end the edit because I really don't need to edit this at all, and I'm going to say embroidery. Then all I have to do is put my double hooped tearaway stabilizer in here and close that down like that. And thread my machine. I'm going to use black so you can see it clearly. So I'm going to stitch step number 1 and stitch. This is step number 1. And it's only going to take about 1 minute. Okay, now as you can see, step number 1 is finished. It's going on to step number 2. Hopefully you can see it's going on to step number 2, which is going to be the tack down, remember? So we're going to go get our applique fabric and put it on top of this. Then it's going to be tacked down. Okay, now I'm doing step number 2, and it's a little bit of overkill, this piece of fabric that I've chosen, but I'd rather have it be a little bit too large than too small. So I'm just going to hit go, and it's going to do the tack down stitch, after which I will trim it. Okay, now I'm going to trim up towards my fabric. Let's see if I can do this so you can see. So I'm going to start trimming, and what I'm doing is just trimming as close as I can around this tack down stitch. I'm finagling this, trying to make it so you can see. Not cutting my stabilizer, obviously. So that looks pretty good. If I'd like to, I can try to trim this a little bit closer. And this right here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's look back now at our screen at the Adobe Acrobat instructions. Okay, just as a quick refresher, we put the 2 pieces of tearaway stabilizer in our hoop. We did the placement stitch for our first color, which mine was orange fabric. Then we did the tack down of the fabric, and again mine is the orange fabric. Next we did the cutaway right up by that tack down stitching, and now it's time to stitch out a placement, or the placement stitches for his hair, or its hair. You can see it's just a tiny little thing. I'm going to stitch that out next, and that will be step number 3. And then I'll go on to step number 4, which will be the tack down of the hair, and then the next step will be the trimming around the hair, and then the next stitching step will be the satin stitch around the hair. So let's get started with that up at my machine. Okay, I went ahead and changed out the thread that I was using so that it matched the color more so of the hair that I'll be using. So I'm going to do, cancel that. I'm going to do step number 3, which is going to be the placement stitch for the hair, as we said. Step number 4, will be to put fabric right here over top, face up, over top of the placement for the hair. Put my hoop back in and stitch this. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my scissors and trim around the hair. And my hands will be in the way again. So I'm going to trim like right up to that tack down stitch, right along here where the hair is. I'm going to do that off screen because it's kind of hard to manipulate it here so you can see, but you know I'm going to cut around close to this piece, and close to this. Okay, the next step is to do step number 5, which is the satin stitch around the hair. So again, as I've said, I've changed the thread color to match. If you can see it right here. Okay, we're ready for step number 6. Step number 6 is going to be his pink cheeks and nose. So I'm going to thread that. I always like to use a thread stand, and maybe you saw that a moment ago. Alrighty, and that's ready. So that will be satin stitches for his cheeks and his nose. And I'll meet you back here for step number 7. Stitch number 7 is the placement stitch for the white of his eyes, and then next I'll put down the white fabric and it'll be tacked down, and then I'll cut around them. So I'll meet you when I'm done with that. Okay, I did the placement stitch for the eyes and then the tack down stitch after I placed the fabric on here. And now for step number 9, it's going to be the satin stitch around these eyes. Okay, that satin stitch is done, and now it's time to do the black parts of the eyes. So I'll need to rethread my machine and just hit go. Okay, that step is done, and so now the next thing I have to do is the diagonal line across the bottom here, and I think I'll do it in the same color that I did his hair. So I'll take this thread out properly and rethread this with the same teal color I had used before. Okay, for this step I decided to just use the same color thread. So I'm just going to go ahead and go. This is step number 12 out of 12. This is the final step for this part. Okay, that has finished. So now what we're going to do, part A is complete. We can pop this out of the hoop and then simply trim around, or actually use tear away, so we can tear this away right up smack dab to the stitching pretty easily. I do one piece at a time. I think I'm a little more accurate when I do it that way. Uh-oh, had a little bit of an accident there. See that? I'm not sure why that happened. Hopefully it won't matter, because there's probably going to be satin stitching, but I better cut that off. Uh-oh. So my machine foot doesn't get stuck in there. So, uh-oh, like I'm saying. Well, you've been with me before when I've had some accidents, so let's see how this works out for us. Okay, on to part B, which again takes you to hooping 2 pieces of tearaway stabilizer in your 4x4 hoop. So I'll do that and I'll meet you back here. Okay, as you can see, on part B, I'm ready to do step number 1, which is simply drawing the placement stitch for our fabric. For step number 2, I just place my fabric on top, making sure all of the stitches are covered. Then I just hit go. Okay, next I will be taking this out of my machine. So as we've done in the past, I can take my scissors and just trim closely to the edges of this. And it would probably be best if I do this off camera, but I'll just start right here for a moment. And just using my embroidery scissors that have that little angle to them, just trimming here closely. So I'll do this and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, I did stitch off camera step number 3, which was the placement lines for the pink part of his ears. So now what I'm going to do is just place this back in and stitch the tack down for his pink ears. So I'll just lay the pink fabric on top again and hit go. And as you know, after this is finished, I'll just trim around it with my scissors. Okay, and step number 5 is the satin stitch around the earpieces that we just put on. Okay, step number 6 involves using a repositionable adhesive if you have it. That's the easiest way to do it, I've found. And I've sprayed it on the back of piece number A. Okay, and now I'm going to position it on this piece. So if these are the ears, I'm going to want to position this so the top of his head is perfectly aligned in the point there, and then the diagonal line right here and here matches the triangle perfectly, just like that. And that nice repositionable adhesive holds it into place perfectly until it is stitched down, which is, again, stitch number 6, or step, I should say, number 6. Okay, next we'll take this out and turn it over so we can see where the stitching lines are, and we're going to put our outside fabric, our final piece, on there, making sure that we're covering all of those stitching lines like that. Now if you're afraid it's going to move, of course you can take a little bit of your 404 spray again, or your KK 2000, spray a little on the back and just set it down here like this, making sure that all those lines are covered. And you can kind of peek up if you hold it at the light. See how you can see through there and see the orange fabric behind everything? So I'll place this in here now, and it's going to do the tack down of that fabric. Now be careful to make sure that your fabric doesn't move. You can kind of see through here that I can still see it's okay. And I'll stitch this one right here. After this step, the next or the final 2 steps will be the satin stitches. But of course, first I'll take this out of my hoop, turn it over, and trim with my scissors close to this stitching line. So here's that. Here's the stitching line back here, and I'm just going to stitch or trim close to it so that the satin stitch will just go around. Okay, that's all trimmed up, and it's time for the final stitching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you'll make some of these little guys right here too. This is actually in my journal that I'm learning how to make. Remember I showed you the book in the beginning? Well, this I actually learned from a friend of mine's YouTube channel. I'll have her link down below. Isn't it cute though? I'm having a lot of fun. But again, you may like to make these with your embroidery machine if you have them. There's tons of different ones you can make. You can put other things in here rather than the little faces of the guys. But it's going to save you a lot of ruining your books by bookmarking, I should say, dog-earing or worse, when you fold the whole freaking page in, right? So I hope you'll join me and you'll give me a thumbs up. Check out my links down below. Subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye.